Ian is a prisoner on D1, Strangeways Punishment Landing, known as the Block. On this landing, men are isolated for breaking prison rules. It is a place of tension and confrontation.
No.
A few days earlier, an incident had occurred after Ian had collected his meal and returned to his cell. It is not disputed that an argument then took place, but what happened next has now become the subject of an internal prison inquiry. For Ian has made an allegation of brutality against one of Strangeways' prison officers. The investigation was to take 2 weeks to complete. It began in the office of an assistant governor, Mike Pascoe.
This is an investigation. You're making a complaint and you're not on trial at all at this stage. I should be fair to you and tell you some of the options that might happen as a result of this complaint. The governor decides what will happen. It may be that the governor decides there's no case to answer. It may be that the governor decides that there is a case to answer, in which case the officer could or could not be charged. It may be that the governor decides that the allegation is not only false but malicious, and then that warning covers. But we don't know. This investigation is simply to give the facts to the governor. All right? Yeah. Right. Now, will you listen carefully now to the statement which you made? We'll just go over it, which will be read by Mr. Price. This is your statement, okay? Yeah.
On D1 yesterday, I went for tea about 4:30 p.m. I picked up 3 slices of bread and 3 crusts. The officer, Mr. Bowen, came up to me and said, "I've warned you about extra bread." I said, "You haven't." I put my tea and tray down. He said, "You're nout." And he pushed me, and I went up against the table. I clenched my fist, but I did not throw a punch. He came at me again and hit me across the face. I don't know if his fist was clenched. He banged me up after, and I said, "You'd better ring the hospital, 'cause I'll cut my throat." The officer said that he would then leave me to bleed to death. I lost my temper, and I flung my knife and jug up against the door. The officer kept coming back to the spy hole and asking if I'd done it yet. This was written by A.G. Pascoe at your dictation and signed on the 20th of the 12th, 1979.
You know, we're going through this investigation of how or what happened, etc. Now, you've alleged that you were pushed and punched or cuffed by the officer, right? And we went through all that yesterday. What I want to make absolutely clear is, in my own mind, is where you are alleging this took place. Because, well, I want to just make sure whether you're saying it was in the corridor, at the entrance to the cell, or actually in the cell. Now, where exactly did it take place?
Well, I've come walking through the door like this with my tray and the sofa, and I stood there, and he says, I've warned you that, all this time. So I pulled him down, and I stood there and he faced me, then he went like that, and I went up there like that.
Yeah.
And I went like that, then I clenched my fist. Yeah. Then he pushed me again, and I went over there. Then he come up like that, and I went over here like that. Before I got back down there, there were some more officers stood at the door line, and that's where it happened in the cell line.
You know, I suggested to you that another officer, Mr. Duncan, had stated that he looked in and saw you, and that you didn't have your injuries. You said you were looking out the window, didn't you?
This is our walk at the window. And,
well, were you up there all the time, half an hour?
Well, when the officer that did the thing on me, shut the door, he come back and started, and the lads shouted, "What's going on?" up above like. So I got up and I thought he was on about me. And I stood up there like, and like this. And the kid come to the door or a knock, and that's how I turned round. And that's when he saw the blood.
I see.
On my
but
face.
That was at about 6 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the officer stated, and I'm going to question him carefully tomorrow, he stated that he saw you at 5:05 and 5:30, and you didn't have your injuries. Are you saying he couldn't have seen you because you were up at the window then?
I was up
All
at,
that time?
I was up at my window.
All right.
After I had my
Yeah.
tea.
All right, just come over here a second again. Imagine I'm the officer, all right, and this is what you said happened. Now, did you see the key, a key chain? You're saying there might have been keys.
I'm not saying there might be a key, but it had like something. I don't know what it was, but like as it come up, it seemed
Because you're a lot taller than me when we were doing that
Yeah.
illustration yesterday, aren't you?
Mr. Boy, he's about the same
Yeah,
size
yeah.
as me, like.
So you don't know what was in his hand or whether
No.
anything was in his hand?
No. It
All
might
right.
have been
Yeah.
a ring or something like that.
Yeah.
Like.
Prison Officer Bowen, the man accused of the assault. He had been a prison officer for 2 years.
Now, let me ask you, in connection with the first and more serious incident, did you strike Smith in any way at any time?
No, sir.
Throughout the afternoon of the 19th?
No, sir.
Right.
Officer Bond was unlocking the inmates on D1 for tea, and I followed him round locking them up when they received the tea. Smith came back, and as he approached his cell where I was waiting at the door, I noticed he had 5 slices of bread and 4 crusts. And I told him about the excess bread because he's been whined before by me at slopping out because he seems to throw all the bread away. And I told him if he's going to take it, it's for eating and not throwing out. And he said something like, well, you might as well take it all then. I said, no, I says, that's it. This time, I said, but we'll be watching to see if you throw any bread out. And he just says, oh, he says, I'm going to cut me or something. And then he became abusive and I ordered him behind his door. And as he went in, I shut the door behind him.
Senior Officer Duncan, who had come on duty after the incident had taken place.
In your statement, let me read the bit to you. The SMO examined Smith, who was then strip-searched and removed to the prison hospital. A sharply homemade instrument was found in the cell. Now, let me have a look. Is this the instrument that you found in...
Yes, that's the one. In fact, I found it.
You found it yourself?
Yes.
Can you tell me where you found it?
It was in the corner, in amongst some letters and where he kept his books and that, just on the floor.
Dr. Downs, the senior prison medical officer who examined the prisoner after the incident.
From your past experience, do you think that the injury could have been caused either by a fist, some keys, or a combination of the two? The keys had sort of been in the middle of the fist. Do you think it could have been caused by them?
I have seen injuries caused by fists many times, by metal instruments many times, and no way could I see these injuries on his right cheek having been caused by either a fist or a bunch of keys in any way whatsoever. The damage was so slight, it was laughable.
A witness for the prisoner, a fellow inmate who says he heard the incident take place.
At the time I was going to get me tea, and I heard screams and shout from the inmate Smith at that specific given time, yes.
Can I stop you there and say, how did you know it was Smith?
Well, you can tell his voice from, you know, the rest of the others, like. It's quite distinguishable.
Can you be a bit more specific as to what? I mean, shouting and screaming. Can you be a bit more specific as to what you heard?
Well, leave me alone. Things like, get off. Then I heard him say, up me eye.
Aye.
Yeah, Mr. Brown. Another for the Sweeney top chair. You get no rebates on it, you know, on this one. No refund.
So much an inch, innit?
So much a book for that. Come on, Bones.
Ian is 23 and married with one child. In trouble since he was 10 years old, he has graduated from stealing sweets to burglary and assault, from detention centre to Borstal to prison. He has 6 months left of an 18-month prison sentence for various offences, including burglary, criminal damage to a police cell, and carrying an offensive weapon.
Those Borstal boys didn't realise years ago they were teaching us secretary.
Ian comes from a deprived background and is illiterate. At 15, he suffered severe hepatitis, and he has a history of mental disorder and was undergoing psychiatric treatment before his imprisonment. He is given the tranquilizers Librium and Mogadon daily.
So you leave it like this for about a month, and then I'll cut it again. I'll have it just right. We're just getting into lie this way now. Right.
Do you want all the mirrors with it? Have a look. Yeah, good. Hey, he's after business. He's after business.
It is now 10 days since the investigation began, and Ian has heard disturbing rumours about his witness.
I gather you want to see me.
That's correct, sir.
It's about this statement in which I made about a prison officer. I wish to withdraw it.
I see.
Have a seat, please.
Well, you have a seat as well. You want to withdraw it? Right, now. You're certain of that, are you? You're certain in your own mind?
Yes.
Because I haven't seen you since we last met, have we? And you made your statement.
That's correct.
Now, do you want to put this in writing? Are you prepared to put it in writing? No. Can you tell me why you want to withdraw now?
Well, I've thought about it and I just don't want any part of it, you know, I just don't want anything to do with it. You know, regardless to whether the officer gets found guilty or he don't get found guilty, I just don't want any part of it. I don't want to, you know.
No, you've never called me out to be a liar yet, have you?
No.
No. Now, the day you can catch me out to be a liar, then you'll have certain fact to say that I'm saying nothing else to you. Correct? Right. There you are.
Right.
Until you can prove I'm a liar, you know what I mean? Shut up.
I'm not calling you a liar.
No, well, that's all right then.
Am I?
As long as you're not calling
So
me a
don't
liar.
get stropping.
As long as you're not calling me a liar.
Did I call you a liar?
In verbal terms, yeah. But carry on.
Whilst in church this morning, being the devoted Catholic I am, I thought, why should I lie for a liar and a thief? You know, I'm a thief myself, but I aren't a liar, so therefore I aren't going to lie for other people. I saw him one morning on exercise, and his face was, well, should I say his eye was cut. I had no means of understanding how he got it or where he got it from. He just said to me that an officer cut his eye. I said to him, do you want me to drop the officer? You know, I don't want me to put him away or whichever way you want it, you know. He said, no, just make a statement. You know, don't get yourself hurt for me, like. So I said, yes, I'll make a statement. And I'll do my best, you know. I'll say what I can as regards this incident, you know.
Yeah, but also I've heard about the witness has withdrawn his statement.
Well, that is up to him. I can't force him.
to give evidence for or against you. The inmate that you named has for some unknown reason to himself.
Ian appears before the governor, Norman Brown, to hear his decision on whether there is a case against the officer or whether the allegation is both false and malicious.
Let me say, you agree, first of all, that you have had a fair inquiry. You have been investigated by the Assistant Governor, and you have been allowed to say what you want to say in your defence. You agree with that? Well, I have Mr. Pascoe's concise report, and I've gone through this extremely carefully, and quite frankly, I can find no grounds to support your allegation against this officer. And therefore, you are very fully aware of the consequences of making a false or malicious allegation. And therefore, I have to tell you that I propose to charge you with making a false and malicious allegation against a member of the staff. You will be, first of all, adjudicated on by myself or on the Governor grades, but it is of a serious nature which could jeopardise this officer's career, and therefore you will be remanded to the Board of Visitors. Now, whether you come before a Governor grade or the Board of Visitors, you will be given ample opportunity to call further witnesses if you so wish. Do you understand that? Righto. Well, you will be charged, and you will be charged before the Board of Visitors, and in the meantime you will be located under Rule 43 for good order and discipline.
It's when they start giving me pressure and aggravation. My temper builds up that much. My mind don't function or something like. And the nearest thing in front of me, I'll just swallow. And I swallow razor blades, knife, forks and spoons, bottles, zips, buttons, glass, all sorts. But I've never tried to, that way and the other way. I've never slashed my wrist and all. If I tried to commit suicide, it is by swallowing. It first started 1975 in here when I was on Forstowing, when the vicar come in and told me my mum died at an heart attack. And that's when it first started. Because I love my mum that much, I couldn't stand it. And when he come in and told me, I just wanted to go here. Like, sometimes I get in that state that I want to be here. It upsets me when I think about it. But, like they say, there's only one person you ever love. That's how it first started, in 1975, when the vicar come in and told me my mum died. That's when I first started swallowing objects, and I've carried on since then.
Now you're charged under Prison Rule 47, paragraph 12. Makes any false and malicious allegations against an officer. On the 20th of the 12th, 79, at Ayrsham Prison, Manchester, did make a false and malicious allegation against an officer. Chief Officer Potter, place you on report. Do you understand the charge?
So,
Do you plead guilty or not guilty?
not guilty.
Well, you've heard the evidence, and there also has been a full investigation into this matter, which is far too serious for me to deal with. Therefore, I'm remanding this to the Board of Visitors.
Can Smith's own written statement in which he makes the allegations.
8 days later, the adjudication. There is a clerk and 2 members of the Board of Visitors, Mrs. Redfern, a magistrate, and Mr. Schindler, an independent member of the board. This is no ordinary court. No lawyers are ever allowed to defend a prisoner. No jury to consider a verdict. These 2 people will dispense justice alone in the closed and secret world of the prison. They must not read details of the investigation, nor look at the prisoner's record. They must consider the matter cold. They have the power in a case of this nature to award 180 days loss of remission. If found guilty, Ian could spend the whole of his sentence in prison. He must conduct his own case and is allowed to call witnesses, ask questions, and make a statement in his own defense. His last resort, if he disagrees with the verdict, is to petition the Home Secretary. This is explained after Ian's statement is read once again.
I lost my temper and flung my knife and jug up against a door. The officer kept coming back to the spy hole and asking if I've done it yet. Written on my behalf by A.G. Pascoe.
And that's what you dictated to Mr. Pascoe and he wrote down for him.
Senior Officer Duncan, please.
Mr. Duncan, you know the incident with which we're dealing at the moment. I have read out this statement. This is your statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is there anything you have to add that you can help us with to your written statement?
No, ma'am, it's all taken care of in my statement.
Well, Smith, you did hear the statement. Are there any questions you want to put to the officer on what he said?
The officer said that he checked my cell door and he saw no blood on my face.
Sorry?
The officer said in his statement that he checked my cell through the spy hole and saw no blood on my face. I'd like to put to the officer, how can he do this if I was stood up at the window straight after tea talking to the lads out of the window?
Yes, ma'am. Smith was not up at the window. He was sat on his bed, facing me with his back to the headboard.
That answers your question, Smith. Are there any further questions? No further questions to this officer.
Dr. Downs repeats that the allegation is not consistent with the prisoner's injury.
I think I've covered all the points that I feel are important.
Smith, are there any questions you want to ask Dr. Downs? Yes, what are they?
You said that I said a bunch of keys.
Yeah.
I never said that. And also...
Can you just put it at this stage in the form of questions?
Well, the officer says that, the doctor said that I said that he hit me with a bunch of keys. Well, I never said a bunch of keys. I said he had something...
Yes, well, you can tell us later.
Yeah, but also he said he'd give me a full...
question and he's answered it. Now, what are the other questions?
He said he'd give me a full examination. He just checked
yes,
me
well,
out.
ask him,
Did you give me a full examination?
I examined where you complained of being injured, which was your face. When you're in the hospital, you're in the strip room, you're examined fairly fully then, and you complained of no other injuries.
I went and asked, and I didn't
Any
complain.
more questions at this stage? You sure of that?
Prison Officer Bowen.
Smith approached his cell with an unusual amount of bread. I told him about this. And he said something like, well, take the fucking lot then.
You said?
Take the fucking lot then. I said no, but a watch would be kept on him at Slopping Out to see if he threw any away.
Officer, during this exchange with Smith you just told us about, where were your keys?
My keys are in my pocket, sir, where they are now.
It is alleged by Smith that you struck him on the right cheek, on the face, with your keys. No. Did you ever touch him during this incident?
No, sir.
Mr. Bond, did you at any time see Mr. Bowen strike this man?
No.
Prison Officer Bond, who says he witnessed the argument between the officer and the prisoner.
You say you saw the exchange of words between the two of them. Did you hear what was said?
I didn't, sir, no. I only saw the exchange of words.
Did you ever see the officer's hand go to his key pocket at all?
No, sir, there was no need. He ordered, I got the last part of the order where Mr. Bowen ordered Smith into his cell and then locked the door. The door was open, sir.
Yes. You caught that part because it was said more loudly?
That's right, sir.
Is this the object that they say that I cut my face with? The instrument that's been found in my cell is supposed to be this.
As I understand it, it is said that that instrument was found in your cell after you were removed to the hospital. Yeah. It's not been said that you cut yourself with that object, but it is said that that object was found in your cell and that you had certain blood marks on your face.
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm just wondering if that was the object, like, what I'm supposed to have done my face with. Because I was going to ask to have it sent to the lab for the blood sample. My blood sample is A recess positive. And it's down on my files. And if that's the object what's supposed to be used on my right eye, there should be samples of my blood group still on the end of the nail or whatever it is.
Well, as my colleague says, it wasn't said that this implement was used to cut you. It was said that after the incident was over, this was discovered in your cell. Yeah. Now, is there anything else you want to say to us about the incident at all?
Given the opportunity to present his side of the case, Ian now calls his witness.
Are you willing to tell us what you know about this incident, if anything?
All I'm going to say is I've noticed I just want to remain neutral.
But you don't wish to give us any evidence?
I wish to say nothing.
No. Very well. Thank you.
Ian then tried to get other prisoners to state that Norman was put under pressure to withdraw his statement. But they have no evidence to offer except rumour. It is ruled inadmissible.
Right, check the prisoner out.
It's a fairly simple issue of fact or belief. Whom do we believe?
Well, Dr. Lawrence did say...
The Board of Visitors consider the medical evidence, discuss the prisoner's suicidal tendencies, which he had admitted during their cross-examination, and consider who is lying about what took place in the cell. They then come to the implement.
The fact that he was subsequently bleeding, and it may be that that sort of instrument could have done that sort of damage to him, seems to me to be irrelevant, and I wish it hadn't been introduced.
Well, yes, unless it was prepared to have been properly.
Yes, but they don't need to go.
The implement
that did it, but of course they don't need to go that far
to
prove their case. They've only to prove that it was a false statement and a malicious statement.
And I don't really think that the injuries that we've heard about, and that the scar that we could see too, was consistent with being pushed.
Or being punched, wasn't it? By a fist
containing keys, which is what he himself said.
And we discount totally, do we, these witnesses and their statements about threatening and or not threatening? Yes, I agree.
Because they didn't see or hear anything of any reason why Flavel withdrew his evidence. They only heard what he told them as to why he withdrew, which is rather different.
And we draw no inference at all, do we, from the fact that Flavel declined to give evidence?
Well,
that's neither in his favour nor against him.
No, I wouldn't hold that against Smith, but I think it's irrelevant, quite honestly. Would you agree with that?
So it's simply a matter of belief between
yes.
the three officers
Yes.
and Smith. And the fact that there are three is neither here nor there either. Each
Oh,
one...
no. My only point was that Officer Bond corroborated
That's right. That's the key
the
bit.
fact by saying that he had Officer Boeing in his side
Yes, that's right.
during the whole of the incident. That was the important factor to me. But the number of witnesses wouldn't influence me. That's just an accident of who was about at the time. So are we agreed?
We agreed that the case is
we
proved.
find it proved. Well, we'll tell him, and then we'll have a look at his record.
Well, we tell
and
it
ask him if
first,
there's
then
anything he wants to say in mitigation.
we...
And then we'll think about what we want to award.
That's right. Okay.
Well, Smith, my colleague and I have given very careful consideration to everything we've heard. We do find the case proved. Now, is there anything you want to say to us at all about it, in mitigation or anything else that you wish to say to us? Anything you want to say at all at this stage? Or let's just wait outside a moment, please.
I suppose we've got to take seriously into account the repercussions on the officer had the case not been proved, and the fact that the officer would have then been in serious difficulties as to his future, I suppose, because he would, by implication, have not been telling the truth.
Exactly.
And therefore the offence is a serious one.
It is a serious charge.
But his record in prison has not been too bad, and I agree with your 40 days, which is not particularly
Nor is
severe.
40 days a severe penalty
for this type of offence in this establishment.
And that is due to the fact that he has, until now, fairly clean prison record.
Yeah. And 14
days loss of earnings, privileges and associated work.
Yes. Fine.
So we'll have, is the record up to date?
Yes, thank you.
So we'll have the man back and tell him. Can we have Smith, Mr. Green, please? Smith, we have decided that you would lose 40 days remission and that there would be loss of 14 days earnings, privileges and associated work.
Already done. Schedule kangaroo cooler.
Johnson with the Smith, Crossy.
Okay, money's moving down there now. Yes, for the number, that's what we done. On the east, on the east. Okay.
Scott, come with your panel. You better get the street ready on the hospital.
Go and get two officers. This is being silly, isn't it?
No, I'm off the strip.
Who ordered you the punishment? Huh? Who gave you your punishment? The magistrates.
It's kangaroo court, you mean?
Well, this is
kangaroo court.
You'll have to petition.
Yeah, I'm not petitioning nothing. Just put me down in the box.
Let's see the officer green. See the officer green there?
Is all right, officer?
Yeah, well, I think this man had better go in this strip, so he's starting to smash it.
Oh, that's okay.
Right, come on, sir.
Go on from Teddy.
Take him to the strip, put a double suit on him, now he said he's going to start to smash it.
his own clothes off. Here you go.
Just,
I hope you time your head down, because if you listen to the door in a minute, I'll split your neck off one way or other, like this, on the door. Fetch that doctor in here and I'll butt him. And I'll punch him right between the eyeballs.
You just stay as you are for a second, because you're only going to injure yourself.
I don't give a shit. I'm going to crack it open. Wide open.
Just hang on.
All right, sir.
Now, Smith, I've just had a word with the doctor. He agrees that the best place for you is in the hospital. And we do not wish you to injure yourself. So it would be best if you went on your own accord, accompanied by the officer.
Slippers there.
Well on.
Good afternoon, Smith.
Come on, my son.
All right.
Threatening to split his head open, sir. Consistently. Threatening to split you as well. And yours as well, sir.
Bend your head down. Bend your head down, son. I want to look at him. Okay? Just turn around. Turn around. Turn around. And back again. Turn around. No injuries. Okay.
All right. Come on, let's go and get our dinner.
Right, sit round.
Hey, Chop!